Could listen to this all day, but we've got work to do, friends. I couldn't not share this map hack I just found in Astro Gold software. So here we are live, and I want this to apply to anyone watching, not just those who play with this wonderful Astro Gold software for Mac computers. So let me tell you a little bit about what I'm showing here on this map. And to do so, we will head first to the chart for the coming 2023 Leo new moon. Let me actually take the angles away here. I've cast this in a 0 Aries chart anyway to speak a little bit more globally. Act locally, but think globally, y'all. And so we have a coming moon-sun conjunction at 2317 tropical Leo on August 16th, 2023. Will be the 17th for some of you, depending on where you are on Earth. Here in Richmond, California, where I live, 2:38:11 a.m., which, if you play with number magic, is in and itself very fun, all right? Because 3 plus 8 is 11 and 1 plus 1 is 2. That's actually how my own birth date numerology works. Another thing I can do with this, by the way, is 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8 is the Fibonacci sequence. And one of the things that I'll be teaching in this Leo lunation over at Astrology Hub is the 5th harmonic chart and working with the 5 divisions of the wheels, the quintiles and whatnot, which is a really amazing exploration and fun thing. I'm very much looking forward to teaching this, and we have some pretty strong quintiles at the time. But what I want to tune you into here is the parallels. So what is a parallel? Like, let's look at this strong moon Uranus parallel at the time of the coming Leo new moon. Interestingly, moon is almost exactly square Uranus. And since it's a new moon, we know moon and sun are conjunct. They're also with Lilith, by the way. This is the true black moon Lilith calculation, which means this is a small, far, slow moon. The moon moves on average 13 degrees per day, and here at the time of the new moon less than 12, because the moon is far from Earth, which is what it means when you see moon conjunct true black moon Lilith. Anyway, this whole moon sun Lilith grouping here is very strongly square to Uranus here in Taurus, right? And yet we also see this moon Uranus parallel. Okay, which means, as many would call this, a conjunction by declination. So the declination of the moon at this time, 18 degrees north. Notice the 5 degrees away from the sun, almost 4 degrees plus. All right, I'll show you why that is. Uranus's declination at the time, 18 north. There are some other parallels to see, like sun is close to Jupiter, so the sun's declination about 14 north, and Jupiter about 15 north, right? So that shows up here on the grid as a parallel that's separated by a little bit more than a degree. And some would say that's out of orb for parallels. But typically parallels are kind of taught like the energy of a conjunction, a gathering by celestial longitude. We can certainly, the moon and the sun are conjunct, right? Mercury and Mars. But Mercury and Mars have different latitudes, celestial latitudes. Moon and sun have different celestial latitudes, or this would be a solar eclipse. That's something that trained eye sees just by their distance from the lunar nodes. All right, let's head over to Stellarium astronomy software, and I'll help you see a few of these things, all right? Moon and sun, let's just zoom in on them. Not a conjunction, right? I have the moon kind of supersized here. So let's get them the same size in our sky, which is how they appear, except not when moon is far and smaller which is the truth when moon is conjunct Lilith. But you can see how far moon is from the sun. They're in the same celestial longitude, that's zodiac degree. The sun is always on the ecliptic plane. That's the plane of the Earth-Sun relationship, the plane of the year, the one ring that rules them all. And then the light binds them. It's the circumference of our chart wheel, okay? The heart of the zodiac. But all planets have their own orbital paths. So like here's the moon's path shown in silver, okay? So these places where the path of the moon crosses the path of the sun, those are lunar nodes. This is the north node where the moon's path takes her from south of the ecliptic to north of the ecliptic. And this is the south node where the moon's path takes her from north of the ecliptic to south of the ecliptic. All planets have nodes. Here's Venus's orbital path. Venus between us and the sun as far as her orbital path goes, and at this time actually very much so because Venus is retrograde, which is why Stellarium is showing Venus huge, by the way, because she's close to Earth. Let's take that supersize away, but you'll see that Venus is very far from the ecliptic at this time, right? So we have a sun-moon conjunction. By the way, there's a bunch of planetary orbits. It's madness, right? Like, so what we do is, like, let's take Venus as an example. We take a planet off of the ecliptic, or a star, space station, whatever, and in the ecliptic coordinates, we tie them to the ecliptic plane. We project them. We draw these perpendicular lines. And so we'll say Venus is here on the ecliptic, right? Just like 1, 2, 3, almost 4 degrees from the sun, which is what you see here in the chart, although it looks more like about 5 to me, all right? What the chart is not showing, unless I put Venus's nodes on the chart to know something about the astronomy, and I do, is Venus's celestial latitude, okay? I can also get that like in Astro Gold software by looking at Venus's chart data. And I can see that Venus has a longitude of 1839 or 1840 Leo. But I can see that she has a latitude of -8 degrees. Now, most people don't even know this about Venus. Many of us have learned, I think by now, that the moon snakes above and below the ecliptic plane every month, crossing at the nodes and peaking at around 5 degrees north and 5 degrees south at the lunar bendings, as they are called. Most folks, I find, do not know that Venus and Mercury can separate from the ecliptic by a greater distance. A celestial latitude is the measurement north or south of the ecliptic plane, and they can reach more than 8 degrees. And here at the time of the new moon, Venus has the latitude of -8 degrees, which is going to significantly affect her observability. Like even here, only 5 degrees from the sun, there will be places on Earth in this moment where Venus will be visible as a morning star. I like to show that on an astrocartography map. So for example, Venus will be rising here, and then the sun rises here. In southern Brazil, in the moment of the new moon, Venus has risen and the sun has not yet. Like there's places right here where Venus is very likely visible, clouds allowing in the winter, right, in the southern hemisphere winter. Where Venus is very likely visible, even though only 5 degrees away from the sun, because she's 5 degrees in longitude like this, right? But 8 degrees in latitude like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Dig it? Let's try to count this again. 1, 2, 3. It looks like less than 4 degrees from the sun in longitude. I don't know why that disagrees with what the chart's showing, but I think we're cool. Anyway, let's head over to this image of sun and moon, all right? Here's the moon's orbital path. It's different than the sun's orbital path. I mean, our solar system is relatively flat, so the planetary orbits, they stay relatively close to the ecliptic plane, but they all have their own gig. And this Leo new moon is a really wonderful time to study this truth because we see Venus, for example, very far from the sun. And as is typically the case for the moon, at new moon time. No moon time. Why do I call it that? Because though the moon and sun are conjunct, because the moon and sun are conjunct, we can't see the moon. It's under the bright beams of the sun, right? We only see the moon during a moon-sun conjunction, a new moon, if solar eclipse, and only solar eclipse if moon and sun meet near a node, like they will on October 14th, 2023, for a Ring of Fire annular solar eclipse. Because the nodes are the places where the paths of the moon and the sun cross, and therefore the luminaries need to meet at these intersections for shadow play, or else, from our point of view, the moon's above the sun, or in that same moment below the sun, depending where on Earth you're looking from. All right. Anyway, you can see here that moon and sun are not conjunct. Moon has a latitude of about positive 4.5 degrees, which means 4.5 degrees north of the ecliptic plane, and therefore in the northern hemisphere sky, like here in London, England, where I've cast this chart for at the time of the coming Leo new moon on the 16th of August 2023 at 10:38 a.m. London time, the moon will be above the sun, and therefore no moon for you, but the wonderful Stellarium astronomy software lets us play and take the atmosphere away. Let's look at the Mercury-Mars conjunction on the chart at this time. And here's the red one, Mars. And here is Mercury. All right, so they each have their own orbital paths. Because Mercury, like Venus, is an interior decorator, meaning their paths are between Earth's path and the sun, we can see their entire orbital path, or we just see them kind of going back and forth from one side of the sun to the other. Venus does that in 19.5 months. Mercury does that in about 4 months. All right. Mars, who is an exterior planet, Mars's path is exterior to Earth, right? Therefore, like the moon, we can see the entire Martian circle or ellipse, which Mars dances every 780 days. All right. Anyway, notice that this Mercury-Mars conjunction, they're off in longitude by 3 1/3 degrees. Right, and so if we bring in this longitudinal grid, we see that here, 1, 2, 3 and a bit. But they're also off by latitude. In this case, Mars is northern latitude by about a degree. See that here in the Stellarium astronomy software. Mars has a latitude of 47 arc minutes, so about a degree north of the ecliptic plane. And Mercury here, well south of the ecliptic plane, about 3 degrees south, right? So when we look at a chart, they're just like, it's 3 1/3 degrees apart. Not really, that's this distance, right? We have to get all Pythagorean triangle if we want to sort out the hypotenuse, right? So whereas longitude is one of the triangle sides, and latitude another, and then that hypotenuse of the two, the a squared plus b squared equals c squared of the thing, will tell us the actual distance between the planetary bodies at the time, right? So in the chart, Venus and Sun look pretty close, 5 degrees apart, a little bit less than 5. But with Venus is 8 degrees of latitude, we're talking about 5 squared plus 8 squared, which is 25 plus 64, which is 89, and the square root of that, which is 9 and a bit, right? So Venus is further from the sun than the chart would show. And the chart shows, of course, the moon and the sun conjunct. It's a new moon chart. And so one of the arms of this triangle is 0, right? They're conjunct in celestial longitude, same zodiac degree. The moon projects to the same degree of the sun. That's called the moon's in zodiaco position. But the moon's in mundo position of the world from Earth, which considers the celestial latitude as well, is almost 5 degrees away from the sun, 4.5 degrees away. Got it? All right. So celestial latitude is a very important factor when we consider parallels. Parallels, which are a conjunction by declination. So you see here moon at 18 north 01, the sun at 1345. There's that 5 degrees of latitude, right? They're different from where they are on the ecliptic plane. I'm confused by why it's not whatever the moon's latitude is at this time. 431 according to Stellarium, or to Astro Gold. Yeah, 431 according to Stellarium astronomy software. So there's some agreement there. Moon and sun should be different here by 431. So I'm a little bit confused about that. Anyway, let's not. It's dang close. Declination, while latitude is a measurement north or south of the ecliptic plane, the sun's latitude will always be 0 because by definition the sun is on the ecliptic. It's the plane of the Earth-Sun relationship. Moon's latitude is only 0. It's only on the ecliptic when moon is conjunct her north or south node. Venus's latitude is only 0 when Venus is conjunct Venus's north or south node. Mars has a latitude of 0 only when Mars is conjunct north or south node, right? So you can see here Mars is close to the ecliptic plane, and that means Mars is somewhat close to a node. Looks like Mars's south node is right here from the Earth's point of view at this time. So Mars is approaching the ecliptic day by day as Mars moves through the signs and the constellations, which are different things. All right, let's talk about parallels. So here is the moon's path. This is the moon's orbital path, right? Shown here in silver, the ring of soul, or the draconic path. I'm going to actually take that away and show the path that moon will describe through the London sky on this day. And that's now shown in pink, right? So the idea is the moon is rising over here, north of east, like Leo does everywhere on Earth, okay? Culminates here. This is where the moon will peak this day at a lower height than the current midheaven, because Cancer in the northern hemisphere is a higher sign than Leo, where the moon lives. And then the moon will set over here, okay? Well, let's supersize some planets. We'll see the gigantic Jupiter here, but I want to look at Uranus. So I'll click on Uranus now. It's right here. And you can see that Uranus's path is the same, rising north of east, culminating at this particular altitude in the London, England sky, and then setting at this particular azimuth or compass heading north of west in London on this particular day, August 16th of the coming 2023 Leo new moon. All right. I can trust Uranus's path more than the moon's, because by the time the moon sets, she will have moved through several zodiac degrees and other things that we don't have to concern ourselves with right now. I'll just say, if you've learned your thing about solstice reflections or the antichon, antiskia, the shadow points, perhaps you remember that Taurus and Leo have a similar shadow length that is cast by the sun at midday, because one is halfway between spring or Aries equinox and Cancer solstice, and the other is halfway between Cancer solstice and Libra equinox. All right, let's not get into the entire teachings of Antisha or Antiskia right now. All right. Anyway, so this is a moon Uranus parallel. Let me bring in the parallels. So this is a grid of declinations or parallels. All right, they are measured from the equator, Earth's rotational plane, right? The ecliptic is the plane of the year. The equator is the plane of the day, our daily spin, right? And so this is literally Earth's equator projected into space at the latitudes of London, England, where I have the stellarium chart cast for. And these are like other lines of terrestrial latitude or parallels on Earth projected into space. Okay, and Uranus just below this 20-degree mark. Okay, that's 20 degrees north of the equator. And so is the moon at the time. All right, I also noticed that the sun is close to Jupiter's parallel, right? We saw they were off by about a degree. That's that distance north of the sun, if you will, or south of Jupiter here, right? So close to a parallel. And what I want you to know is that this means And it's tricky with the moon again because the moon moves very quickly through the zodiac degrees, right? Queen of speed. Um, but with Sun Jupiter, for example, and especially since Sun is moving, well, actually, Sun is moving south at the time, but the Sun basically is taking the same exact path through the sky that Jupiter defined earlier, because in this case, Jupiter's a morning star rising before the Sun, and Jupiter rose over here, culminated here, and will set here, pretty close to that west northwest marker. Well, the Sun rose east northeast, or will rise. I guess I'm talking about a time in the future. Will culminate here, will set west northwest, pretty close to the same track or path parallel to Jupiter. See how that works? Mars and Mercury are somewhat close to the parallel with Neptune. I had noticed here on the grid, Mercury, I think it's actually a contra parallel with Neptune. Mercury's declination 1.5 degrees north of Earth's equator. Neptune 2 degrees south of Earth's equator. That's called the contra parallel. And Mercury on this day will rise just about as far north of east as Neptune rises south of east. Mercury will set north of west, opposite to the point where Neptune will rise south of east. It works like an opposition, contra parallels. There's another reason why they kind of work like conjunctions, and we're not going to go there today, but I highly encourage you to bring declination into your world if you have not yet, astrologers, and honor these parallels and contra parallels. They are very powerful. You can think of them like, again, let's look at this Sun, Jupiter parallel. You can kind of think of them like conjunctions out of time. And it's kind of like Jupiter's leaving a path of roses for the Sun. Or, yeah, I mean, Taurus Jupiter probably likely to leave really big roses for this Leo Sun to smell. Maybe art supplies, musical instruments, or something. Play this, create, right? All right. So, I mean, intriguingly here, we have a really strong Moon Uranus square, and yet a Moon Uranus parallel. So they're kind of conjunct by declinations, kind of an out of time conjunction, a path following. Uranus is leaving. In Taurus, I don't know. I mean, if it was a musical instrument, it's something that Uranus just created in that moment, and it probably makes very weird sounds. So the square speaks to tension and manifestation, the trine more towards a release, but this interesting thing of Moon Uranus in a tense square, but also in a parallel path. All right. So we can see parallels on astrocartography charts, right? Let me zoom out here. And let me bring in all of the astrocartography lines for these planets that are currently displayed. They basically show us where planets are either rising. So this is in this moment of the coming August 16th, 2023, Leo new moon. This teal line shows me where Venus is rising. And this is where I can see that Venus is rising well before the sun rises down here in Brazil. You know what? I actually need to see that in Astro Gold software. Let's go to Brazil and observe that amazing truth that though Venus is only 5 degrees from the sun, less than 5 degrees in celestial longitude, and certainly like in London, let me just rewind time before sunrise this day. There's definitely no opportunity to see Venus. The sun and Venus will rise, it looks like, at a very similar time, which is a Paran, by the way, a co-rising. And we could see that later or earlier in the day. I'd have to change the time to show that on the Astro map. Actually, I want to so let's just go to Brazil. Somewhere around here. And then head back to, let's look east and get to before sunrise here. Am I on the right date? No, this is today. Pushed the wrong button. Um, let's head back to August 16th. All right. And yeah, dig this, like Venus is only 5 degrees from the sun by celestial longitude, right, where Venus projects to on the ecliptic plane. But because of her southern latitude and in the southern hemisphere, like Brazil sky, southern latitude increases opportunity for observation. See that? Because southern latitude celestial objects will rise in the southern hemisphere before the degree of the zodiac that they project to. All right. If I show you on the astrocartography map, Venus is in zodiacal position, you're just going to see it's parallel to the sun and much closer here. If I look at In Mundo, which considers that near 8 degrees of celestial latitude at the time of the coming Leo new moon, you're going to see that, interestingly, here in Maine, where Venus is rising, well, the sun has already risen. But here in Brazil, Venus is rising and the sun has not yet risen. See how that works? So latitude really, really, really matters. All right. Anyway, these are where these planets are rising in the moment of the coming August 16th, 2023 tropical Leo new moon. This is where the planets are reaching at the midheaven. This is where planets are setting. Like, Venus is setting here in Korea. And in Perth, Australia, the new moon will be setting at the time of the moon-sun conjunction. This is where the planets are rooting. So here where I live in the Bay Area, in this moment of the Leo new moon at 2:38:11 a.m. on August 16, 2023, Mercury will be down at the IC, which you see here, Mercury IC, even though I've cast this as a 0 Aries wheel. All right. To finish up here, and then I'll share with you this amazing Astro Gold hack I just found. We're only going to look at the midheaven lines. All right. Now let me say a few other things about the astronomy of a astrocartography map. All right. This is the ecliptic. The path of the sun runs between the tropics of Capricorn, all right, which in any moment is where you can find tropical Capricorn culminating. All right, it's not always off the coast of Australia because the Earth is spinning beneath this, okay? But 0 degrees Capricorn is always above Earth's Tropic of Capricorn. 0 degrees tropical Cancer is always above Earth's Tropic of Cancer. And they say the tropical zodiac is not astronomical because they are ignorant, right? And no, it's not astronomy anyway. The tropical zodiac is Earth's zodiac, and it is literally defined by the tropics, which comes from the Greeks tropikos, for turnaround, okay? The ecliptic goes north and south and turns around and goes north, right? And with the sun's path on the ecliptic, 6 months north from the Tropic of Capricorn to the Tropic of Cancer, and 6 months south from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn. Jupiter does that thing in about 12 years. On and on we go, all right? I actually want to take Lilith off of this map to demonstrate the thing I will show next. So let me change the planets that are displayed here. That'll do. Okay. I'm going to just zoom in here, which on the Astro Gold map conveniently is a double click. Let me actually share a couple other keyboard shortcuts with you here. All right, I'm going to take these sign lines away. Escape will take you out of the map if you're using Astro Gold software. Command M will bring you to the map. All right. In the map, I can draw. I can just click and drag. Okay. This circle that you see, by the way, it's not part of the Astro Gold software. That's from this program called Simple Mouse Locator, which just helps me teach, you know. Anyway, so this is a fun thing we can do in AstroGold software. It can help me show things like a parallel, right? So like if I hover on Uranus here, you're going to see down here below Uranus overhead, all right? If I move just a little bit off, you can see the latitude and the longitude for where the mouse cursor is right now. It's 18 north, 15, and 57 west of, the prime meridian. But 18 north, 14, that means 18 degrees north of Earth's equator here. Well, the moon is the same distance north of Earth's equator, right? That's what we saw over there in Stellarium. They're on the same parallel, the equator being the 0 parallel, and then we have northern parallels and southern parallels. The only ones shown here on the map are the parallels, the very important parallels called the Tropic of Cancer, about 23.5 degrees north of the equator. That's the tilt angle of Earth. And the Tropic of Capricorn, contra parallel to that Tropic of Cancer. In other words, 23.5 degrees south of Earth's equator. All right. Teaching a lot more than I intended to today. Anyway, in astrocartography map, we can see the parallels as long as we are utilizing in-mundo calculations. Some astrocartography maps, like the one you will find at astro.com, only show in-mundo calculations. Some, like the astro map you will find at astroseek.com, I believe, will only show in zodiacal positions. Okay, what's the difference? Well, in zodiacal, remember, is a planet's projection to the ecliptic. This curve is the ecliptic. Look at how far Venus is south of the ecliptic. Latitude. Look at how far Moon is north of the ecliptic. Latitude. We had seen that Mars was close to the ecliptic, about less than a degree north. We had seen that Mercury's south. You see that? Right? So I can change here in AstroGold. I can go to the in zodiacal positions of the planets, and now they're going to show them all on the ecliptic plane. Okay, but you notice here, like Moon, for example, the moon sun line is exactly the same. Why? It's a new moon, right? So their longitudes are the same. They're conjunct, right? You can see Venus is off of her line, though, right? She forgot her lines. Which was much better than the other bad joke I was contemplating. Anyway, Mercury's off that line, right? So because these in zodiacal positions, these projections to the ecliptic, they're going to rise at different times. And the planet's going to rise at a different time than the degree of the zodiac the planet's projecting to does. The planet's going to culminate at a different time, and these are the culminations than the time a planet does. And by the way, let me go back to in mundo, right? When we look at these in mundo lines, this is telling me in this moment that Venus is culminating here in Ukraine, Turkey, in Egypt, right? In South Africa. This circle shows me that in this moment of the coming August 16, 2023 tropical Leo new moon, Venus is directly ahead, overhead at the zenith of South Sudan. All right, that the sun is directly above Sudan, this kind of Sudanese Ethiopian border here. The moon is directly overhead Eritrea. Oh, no, sorry, also Sudan, right? See that? All right, well, oops, now I've zoomed in further on the map, and I've got to zoom out one time. I don't think there's a keyboard shortcut for that. I need to push this minus button down here, because I just want to show you by tracing this line, and I can make it horizontal, that Moon-Uranus parallel. All right, now this is the hack I discovered in AstroGold software. I'm guessing they don't even know about it, so I'll send them this video and say, hey, watch the last minute. All right. I can't leave a line on the screen, right? As soon as I release my click, it's gone. All right. However, I discovered this quite accidentally. Let me draw this Moon-Uranus parallel in, right? So, and look at how you can see that the line, do you see like the little tiny steps in the line there? I can see it's not horizontal. So with my eyes, I'm just kind of working it out until those steps go away. So this looks like the horizontal, all right? Watch what happens when I hit escape. I'm not unclicking my mouse, so the line is still there. Escape. And now Command M to go back to the map, or I could just click here. The line remained. Okay, so that's the Astro Gold hack. Let me show you this Jupiter Sun line. Okay, I release my mouse and it's gone. But if I draw from Jupiter to the Sun and then I hit Escape to close the map and hit Map again, there it is. This Astro Gold map hack. Astro Gold, I will share this with you. Please don't take that away. Like that's I'm taking screenshots right now with these lines shown. It's wonderful. I mean, typically I put this in a presentation like key software like Keynote or whatever, and I'll draw that line in. But it's pretty helpful to be able to show that. And Astro Gold, one thing I would actually request is the ability to add a grid that of for Earth. By the way, check that out. I zoomed out and the line stays there. I just have to click anywhere and it goes away. Click here, put a map on the screen. Click this button and we can relocate the chart real time. It's an interesting way to do that with zero Aries wheel, right? And just see the angles moving through. Anyway, sorry, that's an aside. It's an amazing, amazing astro mapping thing that Astro Gold has added to their mix. Highly recommended astrology software if you use Macintosh computers. You can get a discount, by the way, if you type in Gemini Brett 12 when you go to astrogold.io to get your copy. All right, anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, Astro Gold, little request. Would love to see more parallels on here. An option here, just like we have the option to turn on the equator and the tropics, which I asked for some time ago. Thank you for that. Thank you for all of these amazing map innovations. The ability to turn the ecliptic on and off, it's wonderful. But what if between or here with the equator and tropics, there was another like Earth grid, and we can turn on all parallels of longitude and latitudes, or maybe 5 degrees parallels from the equator all the way to the poles, and 5 degrees from the prime meridian, west and east or whatever. Like that would be really cool to see. I could very kind of easily demonstrate latitudes in that way without having to draw these lines, like this line that shows that Chiron and Venus are near parallel at the time of the coming August 16th, 2023 new moon. There's only was a way I could leave that line on the screen. Oh yeah, escape. Command M. There it is. All right, friends. Well, hopefully you just learned a lot about parallels, celestial latitude, distance north or south of the ecliptic, that is, declination, distance north or south of the equator, that is. Planets that share declinations are on the same parallel track through your sky, like a conjunction out of time. How we can see these amazing things on an astro map, which also shows us the truths that latitude very much matters in zodiacal versus in mundo positions. When we look at in mundo on an astrocartography map, we can see amazing things like Venus, though only 5 degrees ahead of the sun in celestial longitude, in the coming August 16th, 2023 tropical Leo new moon, is far enough from the ecliptic plane, celestial latitude, south, that in southern hemisphere places like Brazil, clouds allowing, Venus will actually be seen as a morning star. Amazing. Which reminds me, I need to get back to building my slides for a coming presentation. I hope you've enjoyed this one. If you have, please give a like to the channel in which you are witnessing this experience. Perhaps consider subscribing and ringing that bell. The present of your presence is the greatest gift you could give, but your support for my channel by leaving a positive comment, sharing this around or whatever, it really helps. So if you've received something here and you'd like to give something back, That would be a great way to do it. You could also head to geminibrett.com, book a reading, and we can look at your parallels and your declinations, otherwise perhaps out of bounds planets, and many, many other things. How does this coming 2023 Leo new moon align for you? May it bring the light. And as I said before, I'm not showing any of that here, but I'm about to teach the fifth harmonic, so we can look at your harmonics together, which is a whole wonderful world of astrology that I am currently possessed with. All right, friends, thanks for spending some time here. I will see